is TA. I need to ring my producer.
I'm still living with a life-threatening illness.
But there is a likelihood that things could end in my life. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is my musical life. I actually like that. I think we might be changing the hook. But today we're talking all about the story behind Light Up My Heart, the song that I wrote. Not just particularly the story behind the meaning of the lyrics, but also the fact that there was a chance that this song was never going to be released because I may have not made it to release day. So we're gonna talk some pretty crazy stuff, but first I'm dying for a coffee. So let's go grab one.
Oh, how long till I find my one? And if this one, what if it's gone? I'm out of luck. Well, the main course is taking the daughters are wasted and I'll have to take home for lunch.
Okay, so I'm home now, but I'm in the wrong attire for JAMMIE Chats, so I'll see you soon. Welcome to JAMMIE Chats. First, I'm gonna show you the JAMMIEs of the video. These are from Peter Alexander. They're a couple seasons ago. When I mean a couple, I mean 3 years ago. But I love them so much, and you can find similar things at Peter Alexander. I'm not 100% sure if you can get Peter Alexander outside of Australia. I don't believe that there are physical Peter Alexander shops outside of Australia, but I am pretty sure Peter Alexander has online shopping. I would assume in this global economy that it ships globally, and I highly recommend because they are an incredible Australian pajamas brand. I love them. So that's the feature PJs of this JAMMIE Chat series, or episode should I say. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So mind my kerfuffled brain as I explain everything because I've been so busy this morning getting my house ready. I got a call from my brother and his wife. They called twice and I was half asleep. I picked it up finally around 8 o'clock. He's like, hey, we're coming to crash at yours tonight. And I'm like, oh, they're on their way down to the snow. So I've just been running around like a headless chook, making sure I have food for my brother and his wife, making sure that I have my house tidied and all of that kind of stuff. All right, so recently, as you guys know, I released my new song, Light Up My Heart, which was just being played in that little montage of getting my lovely coffee. The song has done so well on radio stations. It has reached 1.1 thousand radio spins, and that was last time I checked. That was a month into release, which I find just incredibly wonderful and supportive, and I am so thankful. But that almost didn't happen. None of it almost happened. In fact, the song almost didn't happen, and that is what we're going to talk about today. If you have been on my channel for a long time, probably know quite a bit of the story. It starts in 2023. Now, obviously, I had been living with a condition for about, well, technically my whole life. But at this point in 2023, I had been living with my condition for, like, knowingly with, I guess, limitations to my life for 3 years. And I just moved down to Sydney to get closer to the medical professionals because my condition just seemed to progressively get worse over the years, which is very different to what is usually seen with the particular condition that I was diagnosed with, which was hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I was extremely just not well. Organs were just not organing and really struggling. I moved down here and I had been working with a producer for a while, and I won't go into the specifics of how I got to work with that producer because I have already done a video on it. So if you're interested to know the specifics, I will link that video up here to watch afterwards to get some backstory, or you can watch it now and come back to this video afterwards. But the fact is that I'm working with this producer, but not officially yet. Like, we're just testing the waters. End of 2023 hits and I call my producer and I'm like, I am so ready to take this seriously. What do I do? And it's so funny because he kind of was just like, oh, finally, okay, let's do this. Like, he was kind of just waiting for me to be like, let's do this. And that's when we officially started working at a 50-50% partnership. So we started that, and then we'd already been working on some music and I'd already gone and recorded some music, but in 2024 I went crazy on the whole social media marketing of my music and trying to get out there. So 2024 was jam-packed. I was doing music festivals, I was at conferences, like meeting music executives, radio executives, all these types of people. I was traveling to do all this stuff. I was flying up and down the coast. I was barely ever home. I was just living crazy dream life. And then in 2024, middle of 2024, I'm at church and I have a very concerning medical episode. It mimicked exactly like a stroke. I had to call paramedics. Paramedics came. I was rushed to hospital really quickly. I went there and at that point, everything had just left. Like it was all like nothing had happened. By the time I got to the hospital. When the paramedics were there, it was still a thing, but by the time I got to hospital, it was like nothing had happened. It was so weird. Well, it wasn't like nothing had happened, I was really weak, but like the crazy stuff was just not like what happened, where did that go? And so I was told, I think it's just dehydration, you are diagnosed with POTS, so maybe it's POTS. And I'm like, okay. The next morning I have another medical episode, and that's when we find that my heart started to develop an arrhythmia. And then basically that was a weird episode, and then I felt okay after that. But then I had another episode 3 months later when I was traveling. I ended up in a hospital far away from home, and that is when they first start discussing a TIA or like mini stroke. But at the same time, they're like, oh, it's a TIA, but it could be like anxiety. Like the two wide thing. It's like, maybe it's TIA, maybe it's just anxiety. Like the two biggest, it was like, okay. Also, I'm a woman, so like, no, obviously anxiety. Anyway, so I'm just left thinking, what the heck is going on? I knew it wasn't anxiety. I've had anxiety my whole life. I'm diagnosed with anxiety. I've had panic attacks all throughout high school. This was so different. I knew it was different, but I was just like, okay, whatever. In the lead up to Christmas that year in 2024, I was extremely busy with music, but at the same time, my health was declining very quickly. And I was struggling to go about these big opportunities that I was doing. I was like barely hanging on. 2025 hits, and there are nights where I am praying that I will wake up the next morning, unsure whether I will. Some of these nights I went into hospital and got monitoring and stayed awake the whole time. Some of them I was just so sick of hospital. I was tired, I wanted to sleep. I knew if I went to hospital I wouldn't sleep. So I don't recommend you do this, because the recommendation was me to go to hospital to be monitored to make sure that there was no stroke or heart attack, continuous heart monitoring and all that. Also, like at the beginning of 2025, I had a really bad episode again, went straight to hospital, got a scan. It showed hypoperfusion to the brain, which is like delayed ischemia in a way. Every time I'm just like, is this gonna turn into a heart attack? Because a lot of time it doesn't. And we don't know what's going on. I'm trying to ask my doctors, like, what can I expect? What is going on? They're like, we just don't know. Like, they had no idea. And I'm trying so hard to stay alive. My music career had just completely vanished at this point last year in 2025. I didn't do any concerts. I didn't do any festivals. I didn't travel for music at all, zip zero. I released one song that released while I was in hospital, like surgery, like released the day after my surgery, and I'm in hospital just like shooting little videos on my phone and posting them on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, being like, stream my song, put it on my Instagram stories. Like, I'm doing all of this from the hospital bed, which I had become very used to doing work from the hospital bed. I'm just doing all this stuff, and I'm just thinking, what if I don't make it? I think I kind of feel guilty to admit this, but every night where I thought I wasn't gonna make it, my first thought, which I kind of feel really embarrassed to admit, it wasn't, what about all the people that love me, which sounds, I don't think this is a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but my first thought was, what about all these songs that I've written? will anyone get to hear them? Will anyone get to listen to them? Like, no one's going to hear my songs. I have so much to tell, so much to say, so much to sing about, and no one is gonna hear it. Mind you, 2025, while this is all happening, I am not upfront with my music, but I am doing a lot of the background work with my producer. I was recording songs in behind this mirror, and I was recording some of the songs, like, got a studio back in there. And when I wasn't recording vocals that were gonna be used, I was doing them in my bed. I would set up, I'd lay in my bed. There's like a clip I have in some of my reels where I literally have my entire head up with like a 24-hour EEG monitoring my brain while I'm just playing guitar and tracking, like, guide track in my bed. Like, this is the kind of stuff, and it's absolutely insane to think, because I thought there was a chance I was not gonna make it to the next year, because we had said we are not releasing anything until the next year. We're gonna do background stuff this year and then release it the next year, so you can focus on being chill and we can get ahead with releases. And part of me thought that I would never see that day. Part of me thought that I would never see this year. I would never see 2026. I would never get to release any songs. And that terrified me. And I think the scariest part was when I went to the doctor in September last year, one of my specialists, the one who's heading all the stuff. I asked, am I dying? The answer I got was basically, well, kind of. Yeah, it was like, well, we don't know, but there is a high risk. So hearing that, I was completely distraught. I went up, like, after this, I went up to visit family. It was probably the worst 3 weeks of, like, my life. Everything went wrong. Hey, so my camera died, so I've switched over to my phone. But what I was saying was, I remember the ride home, we're on our way home, and I realized I need to ring my producer and I need to be honest and tell him what is going on, because I realized if I died, I did not want my songs to die with me. I rang my producer in the car on the way home and I said, hey, so I just saw my doctor a couple weeks ago, a week and a bit ago, and this is the situation. I don't want my songs to go to the grave with me. If this, God forbid, if this happens, I don't want that. And I was very honest. I said, look, I don't know if this is gonna happen, but there is a likelihood that things could end in my life due to my illness, which we didn't even know what the illness was at that time. Would you be able to work something out?
It's a lovely sunny winter's day here, and I thought to take the time to do some embroidery in the park before the tornado that is my brother and his wife arrive at my house. Not my brother's wife, she's fine. It's more my brother that's a tornado. So I just wanted to come down here and talk with you guys on a little side note. I know that I said that my treatment has been working and everything has been going a-okay. Well, not a-okay, but much better. However, the reality is I'm still living with a life-threatening illness. I'm still at risk of life-threatening complications. So that being said, what are the plans I'm actually putting in place for the future of my music? I thought I would let you guys know, as I'm sure a lot of you came onto this video wanting to know those plans. Now, before I tell you, I just want to admit that I don't have the full plan yet. I have things that I'm thinking about and things I'm considering, but as you can imagine, this is a very difficult reality to live with, and so plans change, priorities change, but I'm just going to let you in on a few things that have been discussed and my thoughts on the situation. So that conversation I had with my producer on the phone on the way back home from my mum's place, he had brought up and discussed the possibility of feeding all of the data we have around my voice from my vocal stems that I have recorded over the years, which have been many, into an AI system where he would be able to mimic my voice through AI. This, of course, was something that I felt a little uneven about at the start, and I did consider it though, and I was thinking it through. However, that being said, it's probably not where I'm going to go with this. And so my thoughts and things that I may be planning on doing is, I'm in the music industry at the moment. I'm very new, but there are so many musical artists who I'm in connection with, female artists who I think have beautiful voices, who I know personally. I have a pick of artists that I can use. I also have a pick of artists who aren't particularly in the music industry yet, but who maybe just love singing and who I have a very good relationship with over the years in terms of a friendship and music. And so my thought is to just get someone else to carry on my legacy completely. Now, does this mean we'll grab one person to carry on my legacy? No, I do not want to have to force someone to carry on that legacy. Obviously, I understand that my producer has more than capable hands of being able to carry that legacy on, but he also has the ability to find some singers, or I can recommend some singers who are close to me, who we will be able to get to sing on a track or two, maybe a bunch of different singers. The big thing to talk about is royalties as well, because royalties is basically IP. It's intellectual property. It is something that can last generations. Obviously, I will want someone to take on that intellectual property. Whether I have a family down the line that I leave behind that I want to carry on that intellectual property, or whether it's, you know, my family, if I don't have a family, whether it's my mother and my siblings, whoever it is that has that intellectual property, that is an ongoing income that can go on for as long as possible that I will want to leave to someone. Obviously, there is a whole bunch of legal stuff there that you have to work out. It is a very complicated thing. I would have to consult a lawyer in order to work all of that stuff and get my affairs in order, which is something that I am considering on working on very soon, because obviously you just never know, and it's good to be prepared whether you live with a life-threatening illness or not, especially when you have IP, because anyone who has IP has the potential of being able to finance someone within their family for years, generations, centuries to come. So obviously a main priority is to be able to set up that IP and the royalties, where and who that money is going to be allocated to. This gets a little bit complicated again when you want to bring in artists to take on the vocals of your IP and your original work. To be honest, they also need a payment as well, and that's where I think royalties would be adjusted. Okay guys, I'm gonna be walking and talking the rest of the way because I just realized I was sitting on a mound or something of a bunch of ants and got bitten, and it kind of hurts. One of those ants that you do not want to be bitten by. It just stings. So I'm just going to continue to walk. But for an example, what this might look like is 20% goes to my estate, 20% goes to the artist who works on that particular project, and 50% will still go to my producer, which is basically the agreement we have at the moment. 50% goes to me, 50% goes to him, but in this regard, my part would be split between me and the artist who sings. Perhaps this is how it will go. Again, this is only an example. But anyway, that is the explanation of, I guess, what will happen to my songs and whatnot if I die, God forbid, but reality is we're not immortal and we're gonna die someday. So this is gonna have to be something I'm gonna have to work out at some point. The only difference here is it's a possibility that I'm going to have to work out sooner than most people. So I made it to the next year. We finally found the issue that I was struggling with, a extremely ultra rare systemic vasospastic disorder. We still don't 100% know what is causing it, whether it's primary or secondary. Then we get to this year and I'm doing so much better. I'm still at risk. 2 weeks ago I had chest pain for an entire week, left it stupidly and ended up
going to get it checked out at the 11th hour, a whole week while I was still having it, and found that my heart was like mildly ischemic. So I'm still at risk, but it's just the quality of my life is so much better than it was last year. But we get to this year, we finally get to release a new song, Light of My Heart, and just the beauty of being able to release that song and just go through another release after a whole year of not being able to do a release. Like the Cry release was like, we barely did a release strategy for that because we just couldn't. I was just not well enough. We just thought, let's just get it out there and that's it. We went through the full release strategy for Light Up My Heart. It was all over the radio. It's still on the radio. It's just insane. I am overjoyed. Thank you to everyone who streamed my song. Again, I know I said this at the start of the video, but I want to say it again. Thank you so much to the radio stations who have supported my song so much. A massive shout out to Rima 99.9 in the Port Macquarie Hastings region. You guys have been my biggest supporters from the beginning, from when I was 10 and wrote a song that was not radio quality at all, and yet you guys still put it on the radio. That is insane to me. Thank you so much for your ongoing support. It has been absolutely incredible. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me, and the fact that all of you guys have streamed my music, you've watched my music videos, you guys watch my videos, you comment, you like, all those things. I just cannot get over how blessed I am for this community and for everyone who's just gone out of their way to support me and what I love doing. I just love that. And I want to continue to be someone who shares with the world that you can still do the things you love even when you have whatever it is going on. And I will continue to reiterate that it's not going to look the same. It's going to look very different. Last year looked so different. I was still doing music, but it looked extremely different to any other year. The compromises people with chronic illnesses, with whatever it is, have to make in order to live out their dreams is tiring. It's insane. It's crazy. And I get it. And I don't want to diminish that. We have to make so many compromises that a lot of people with able bodies will not understand. We are so many steps behind. We have to race so hard to make it against those who have a head start. But yet we can still do it, and we still have something beautiful to offer the world. And I think that's the most important part of this. And I hope you enjoy my song. However, that being said, before we end this video, I have a very special surprise for everybody listening. And that surprise is I have an exclusive listen of the bridge for my new song that is coming out in the middle of July. I cannot wait. So here is the bridge for my new song, Where We Started. Love you guys.
Oh, I wanna just go up at 18. Honey, can we turn out the clothes?